All right, what's going on, everybody? So welcome back to the channel. This is going to be one of our final videos for our series, Too Far Under the Plane. And we're going to go into one other drill that I like to use for getting players that are stuck too far under the plane from moving too far into the golf ball or doing what we would call early extending. So let's get into it. So again, like what we talked about in our previous video where we used the basket drill right here, is I think where a lot of these issues right here for players, where they come from, is where we're actually trying to direct and where we're trying to keep pressure. So a big part of it right in here is, I think, one, we need to have a really solid connection against the ground. And so, like, for me, one of my big issues again was I would sit here and I would try and keep my rear back set up. I would place my weight more in my heels, so it's almost like the fronts of my feet were off the ground right here. And I'd keep this pressure back and I'd try and keep this back the whole time. And if I was able to hit the golf ball like that, I felt like the only piece that I had access to was really my hand speed right there. Like I was just reaching for the ball and I couldn't create any speed in regards to the actual motion because of what I was trying to do movement wise, just keeping pressure back. So when we actually look at force right here, if I wanted to take myself and move myself backwards, one of the ways that we would do this is actually by applying pressure forward. So if I applied pressure towards the ball, that would actually give me the ability right here to move away from it. Now, as we get deeper and deeper into this, I think one of the other pieces that's really important here is how we actually get the pelvis, the center of our pelvis right here, our belt buckle, working against our right leg. I think this is a really important piece in setting up some stability in both the hips, the pelvis, and the ground pressure that really gives us the ability right here to keep that golf club on plane, get it back in front of us without us flexing and moving too far into the golf ball. So the first exercise that I would go into is, so I've got this cube right here that I'm gonna place this on my belt buckle, okay? Now from here, what I'm going to do is, we've talked about a reverse split stance or a normal split stance. What I'm going to actually have you do is we're going to go into a reverse split stance, which means our trail foot or our right leg is going to move forward and our left leg is going to move back behind us. So you can see how far back my left leg is in relation to my right leg. Now from here, what you'll notice, if I'm inside of golf posture right here, I place this up on my shoulder lines right here like this, what I'm going to start to do is this is going to apply more pressure towards the ball of my foot, which is going to give me the ability to push and extend the leg back, and learning how to actually time this up. As we're turning the center of our pelvis into this leg, you're going to feel a sting right here in your right or in your trail glute. And I would actually practice making backswings here with my right foot forward, pushing. So I'm pushing backwards. I'm pushing backwards as I'm turning, which is also making room and making more sense for me to keep my left bend in. This is also how we get our hip tilt, our shoulder tilt, our rotation. So this is more of what our feel would be right here. So this gives me the ability to actually feel this pressure moving me and allowing me to push away from the golf ball versus just trying to keep my rear back to hit the golf ball, like what you see right there. So I would create a reference, create a feel. So I'm going to go into a split stance like this, club on my shoulders. You can see how my right toe is pointed straight ahead. So my knee here is not going to have a lot of crazy rotation. The rotation here is going to come from my pelvis. So what you'll notice is, if you watch my right knee and you watch this cube that I have on my pelvis here, I'm going to start pushing as I'm turning. You can see how much the center of my pelvis is moving into my trail leg and into my trail hip, which is creating my hip tilt and gives me a very distinct feel in my right glute here. So I think learning how to load this up properly in the backswing now, as we start to move from the split stance drill, our normal split stance drill to fill the arm space, then we've got the shin breaker that we did as well. Now I think we can start to go into how we actually need to apply pressure while we're actually rotating. And again, really what that pressure is me being able to extend the leg. So if you think about it, I could stand right here and I could just extend my leg, or I could have pressure into the ground where I feel like I'm pushing from it. And that's what activates my muscle group more. That's what gets this distinct sting here in my trail glute where my hip is. And I think this is a piece right here that is incredibly important, incredibly valuable for the player that we might see if they get too far into the plane. Because a lot of times they just move everything together, fire their pressure forward, and this is where they get stuck. So they get their knees and their hips and their spine, everything moving the same direction at the same time versus having what we would call opposing forces. So I have my trail foot forward. As I'm turning this into my leg, I feel like these are actually working. If I set my club down, I feel like these are almost working here in opposite directions versus everything working in the same direction at the same time. And this is a really neat way. If you've never felt something like this, I think this is a great drill for you to be able to do. Now, the other thing that's pretty neat with this, we can hit golf balls with inside of this stance. What you will have as an expectation is you're probably gonna pull most of these golf balls, but you should be able to hit it pretty solid. And so when I go into here, I would take my normal setup right here. I'm gonna move my right foot, my trail foot, about half a step forward. Bring my left foot to where it's behind my right foot. So I'm in setup here. My right foot is pointed straight ahead. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be pushing as I'm turning. And as I start back down, I'm gonna continue pushing away so that my arms have a lot more room right here to lengthen out. So you can see I pulled that golf ball. And that's just because we don't have as much ability to get our pressure horizontally here, but it gives us the ability to feel this reach right here that's probably going to be foreign to most of us because we're used to standing up and hitting it this way. It's going to be a very distinct and a very foreign feel. So inside of this, I'm going to feel from a drill perspective like I am pushing towards the ball to extend my right leg as I'm turning my pelvis in the backswing. In the downswing, I'm gonna feel like I continue to push away. Now I can feel how I can reverse, I can actually get into a good side bend or a good side tilt versus hanging backwards and standing up. So let's do that again. This ball's probably gonna start a little bit left, so I'm gonna push and turn as my arms work around me, and I'm going to continue pushing into my downswing here. Let's give it a go. A push and turn, push and turn. So you can see how I'm still pushing away from the golf ball. That's really making it feel like my arms now have the ability to extend to the ball versus them being trapped behind me and hitting it like this. It's a great source for the player that gives them the ability to feel how their arms can now get back out in front of them. Because if I'm pushing away with my arms behind me, I'm never going to get to that golf ball right there. So I like putting players into positions right here to where we have to create a different reaction because of the action that we're creating at the address position. As an example, this reverse split stance drill. Every action has a reaction. So let's change the action to get a different reaction like what we're doing right in here. And then if we wanted to, we could add another part to this like we've done in our other series in regards to finishing lower and more around us. We always have our face to path relationship right there. And so when we hit these pulls, they shouldn't be pull hooks. They should be more straight pulls. So I've got that feel, turn the pelvis into my right leg as I'm pushing. And I'm gonna continue pushing away here throughout the downswing. Let's give it a go. Push, push. So you can see how that was a straight pull, and you can see how extended my right leg was there. So like that golf ball, I even actually hit it off of the toe with how much I push. So I'm gonna give myself an impact feel. So I'm gonna go push, push with side bend now versus up. So I'm gonna go right here, I'm gonna go push and turn, and I'll feel my side bend stays in as I'm pushing away. So I'm pushing and turning, and there's more of what that would look like right there. So you can see how much I've pushed away from that. I think it's a great gateway, again, as we start to move this back to a neutral setup. By bringing this now back to a neutral setup, I'm gonna keep that same feel. So I'm pushing away as I'm turning and creating all this space right here. Let's give it a go. And that right there is another great baby cut. I could tell how far forward my low point was, especially with the push that I had. So when we turn this into a routine now, here's what our routine would look like. Let's start off in the split stance. We're gonna feel turn and push with the right leg, turn and push with the right leg, back to impact, pushing away, reset, normal setup. Our expectation is the ball is going to be pretty straight, and let's repeat that feel right there. And that right there was about as good of a golf shot right there as I can hit. So give that a go. I really hope that helps. Let me know if you have any questions on this whatsoever. Leave those in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed this series. I appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this video here. If you haven't, please click that subscribe button. You can also click the bell right there, and that's going to notify you every time that I release a new YouTube video. Also, if you haven't, check out that last video that I did. It's right here, pinned to the screen. Thank you so much for your support. I really do appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, any comments, please leave those below, and I will make sure I get back to each and every one of you. So, thank you again. Appreciate your support. We'll see you next time.